Hey, Joyce here. Today I wanted to do a video on how you manage a knowledgeable achiever. So the best way to start with management is to look at what motivates a knowledgeable achiever. The thing I like about this system is that the descriptive words really cover it. They like knowledge and they like achievement. And so it's really important that you provide them with the opportunity to work on both of those things within their daily job. It doesn't have to be 100% of their job, but these elements need to be in there. So you would make sure that they can have continuing education. Money is not going to be money will be important to them, but really, do they have a growth path? Can they continue to achieve over time? Can you continue to give them new goals for them to knock out of the park? So that kind of motivation, when you're working with them, the first thing I do is to see what motivates them and how can I bake that into their job. Number two, what are they good at? They are incredible multitaskers. They can carry an enormous workload. So what you have to be careful of is that you're appreciating them. It's really easy to say, oh, just because they make it look easy doesn't mean it is. And so you tend to just give them more and more and more because they will always do it. But what happens is then the other issues come out of that. And so you really need to be careful that you're giving them a doable workload so that they keep their home life balance and they don't become machines. And secondly, that you appreciate them. Just because they make it look easy doesn't mean it is. What are their challenges? So one of the biggest challenges I find, weaknesses or destructive behaviors, is they tend to be super self-critical. So you got to be careful about criticizing a knowledgeable achiever because they're criticizing themselves so much. So you need to be highlighting where they're doing really, really well. Another thing is that they tend to not tell you, they're not going to be as vocal when something is wrong. So for example, a charismatic leader, if something's wrong, you're going to know, they're going to tell you. Where a knowledgeable achiever holds their energy in a different way, they're very self-motivated, and so they're the one most likely to say, oh, I'm fine, but be careful because they may not be fine. And you don't want to lose a really good person because they're not going to come and complain to you. So be careful, be watching them. I have other videos with stories. There's a great one about a knowledgeable achiever not achieving their goals, but not yelling and screaming either. They were very subtle. So as you just be really careful that you take good care of them because they're workaholics. They really, really are. No-nos. With a knowledgeable achiever, you never want to give them goals that are unachievable. A knowledgeable achiever will work super hard to make their goals, but if they're unattainable, they're going to have much more of an issue because they need to achieve. They need to meet or beat their goals. So make sure their goals are achievable. And the second thing, going back to the self-critical, just be careful that you're not being too critical of them because they're so critical of themselves. And if you hear I'm fine, follow your gut. If you think that that's not a real I'm fine, make sure you dig in, ask them questions, make sure you understand what's going on. I'm fine is usually not a good thing. Blends. So far I've pretty much only talked about primary profiles, but each person can have secondary profiles as well. So if they may be a knowledgeable achiever primary profile, but they may be a creative idealist as a secondary profile or a team player. So really start to look at, okay, well, they're mostly a knowledgeable achiever, but sometimes they display these other characteristics. And then go watch those videos because you may need to motivate using both of their profiles, especially if they're close. What happens if you have a knowledgeable achiever in the wrong role? Now, knowledgeable achievers tend to figure it out. They're going to succeed no matter where you put them. So wrong role is high. Usually they can figure it out no matter what you give them to do. They're going to figure out a way to do it. They're puzzle, they get it. The world is like making puzzles and they figure it out. They're just very, very smart. But what'll happen is if they're in the wrong role forcing themselves to do something and they're not happy and they're not fulfilled, then you may lose them or they'll burn out. One way to help with these kinds of things is to pair them with other people. If it's a real burnout situation, pair them up with a team player. If they're turning into machines because they're not, they just, perform, you may want to pair them with an emotional intelligence specialist, someone that's going to soften up their day-to-days. What's their work environment? One thing when I'm managing a knowledgeable achiever, make sure that they have the fundamental tools to do their job. If they need a printer at their desk, if they need a better computer, if they need anything like that, make sure they have what they need, because inefficiency is just horrible for a knowledgeable achiever. So give them what they need and you'll get twice as much work out of them, but they want to be working efficiently. So make sure they have the tools of the trade. And then finally, I mentioned I have a bunch of examples because I think these concepts are great, but giving specific examples really adds more flavor to them. But also, if you have a situation at work and you feel like, oh, I could use some help with this, we have a box. I think it's called What is Bugging You Most? And you can write, or just write to us at our email address, and we will look at those, and maybe we will it's maybe a situation that I've had before, or one of my peers who use these profiles in different industries, they may have had the issue before, and we'll do our best to create story videos to help you with specific problems. Okay, thank you.